Welcome to the course. And before we start, we need to have a look at what we're going to learn. So this is the DP-300 Administering Relational Databases on Microsoft Azure. So what do you need to know? Well, I would like to defer to Microsoft. So let's go to the official Microsoft page. So you can see that candidates for this exam, and therefore what you'll be learning in the course is good for, database administrators and data management specialists that want to or do manage on-premises and cloud relational databases built on Microsoft SQL Server. So let's have a look in a bit more detail as to what all of this means. If I scroll down, you can see that there are 7 main topics: plan and implement data platform resources, secure environment, operational resources, optimize queries, automation of tasks, HADR, high availability and disaster recovery, and TSQL. Now, if I click on the download exam skills outline, each of these is broken down into more than 110 different items, and we will be covering each of them as part of this course. So we won't actually be doing it in this order because I don't think this order is actually a good order for you to learn things in. So instead, we're going to be doing something slightly different. First of all, we're going to be getting a free trial of Microsoft Azure, creating an Azure SQL Database sample data, and then installing SSMS and connecting to our database. Then you'll notice that it says candidates for this role should understand all the concepts covered in DP-900. Now, the DP-900 exam is a good starting point. However, you will not require it for this particular course. But let's just have a look at what you would require. And if I go into this, you can see that one of the requirements is query relational database in Azure SQL Database. So for this, you need to know the 6 principal clauses of the select statement. Select from where, group by, having, and order by. So if you don't know them, I suggest you pause the course now and have a look at them. We will be having a brief review of these and joins coming up. There will be a fair number of SQL statements in this course. We won't be spending a lot of time looking at how the select statements are built up. We'll instead be looking at the results and how they apply to administering relational databases. So with the DP-300, we have got all of these 110 and more different items. So what we're going to do is start off with Azure SQL Database. Now, there are 3 different types of things we'll be looking at: Azure SQL Database, Azure SQL Managed Instance, and SQL Server in Azure Virtual Machines. The reason we're starting with Azure SQL Database is that it's simple to set up and doesn't cost too much. So we'll be looking at how to get a free trial anyway, but we're going to start with everything we can do in Azure SQL Database in the first part of this course. And then in the second part of the course, we'll have a look at Managed Instance and SQL Server for Azure Virtual Machines. So the way that we're going to have a look at it is, first of all, we're going to optimize query performance. So we're going to get our hands dirty on how we can improve our queries and then evaluate performance improvements using DMVs, Dynamic Management Views. We're then going to compare and contrast all of the others. So we'll have a look at Azure SQL Database with the Managed Instance and the Virtual Machines. Now, you notice that there is a little number at the beginning. Well, that relates to each of these individual items. And coming up, we have what's called a lecture, and it just contains the resources that you need for this course. And one of the resources is all of those items numbered. So at the moment that they go from 1 to over 110. So you'll be able to look at this list and go, okay, right now I am reviewing item number 61, and then you can cross it off your list. So bit by bit, we will be going through each of the things that we need to for the DP-300 course. One thing I should say is that the security requirements are not as complete as you would need if you were really administering on Microsoft Azure. So we'll have a look, for instance, at transparent data encryption. We'll have a look at always encrypted, have a look at compliance controls and authorization and authentication, but there's a lot more security that you would need, like for instance firewalls and ports, that we will only have a look at briefly in this course. So we'll look at monitoring and optimizing operational resources. We're looking at performing automation and HADR, so that is high availability and disaster recovery. We want our data to be available for longer, and if something happens, we want to be able to get back to it. And then after going through all of this with Azure SQL Database, then we're going to have a look at all the bits that we've missed that are applicable to virtual machines and managed instances. And then at the end, we will have a practice test and also what you can do next. So that is our course. So coming up next, we'll have a look at the resources. So please download the resources for this course, and then we'll get a free trial of Microsoft Azure, and we'll create Azure SQL Database with some sample data. Welcome to the course.